Welcome back to Jay and Dave Sports Bar, and guess what? The silence has finally been broken on maybe the most intriguing football player over at the Boise State football complex this fall.
The player would be...
We've talked to Bruno DeRose.
That's okay. Daniel Cantrell, we haven't got him yet.
We haven't talked to Daniel Cantrell
Long snapper. Yeah. It was big week for the media. As I said in my story, it was media Christmas.
It actually kind of was, because I guess I could have added more than just one person I was referencing to this whole fight card, but we talked to Hank Bachmeier for the very first time since he's arrived on campus at Boise State. We got all the quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. We have spoken with both Jalen Henderson and Chase Cord prior to this, but you have to go back to the spring and in some cases even further than that since we talked to the previous two. But Hank Bachmeier, this was the very first time that we got the chance to talk to him since he's arrived on campus and has been the starting quarterback for the Boise State football team.
And so when I was kind of finishing up the story that I wrote about it, I was like, well, when did we first talk to Brett Rippon? We talked to him in mid-November, mm-hmm. and I was like, and it was both after their 7th starts that we talked to him.
Because if you remember, Bronco Nation or the fans listening to this, Brett didn't actually start his first game until the 4th game of the season at Virginia. He came in game number 3 to relieve an injured Ryan Finley, but then he actually started at Virginia in game number 4 of that season.
Yep, exactly. And then
I didn't realize, Dave. Good find though, because I didn't realize it actually was after the 7th start.
It was after the 8th game he had played, but it was the 7th start.
I heard that they were doing that in honor of Channel 7. Mm-hmm. So things happen in 7s over there.
And like this, and it was in honor of a certain player that Brian Harsin mentioned this morning. John Elway, number 7.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so I think that's also why,
you actually did randomly bring up John Elway this morning.
And Joe Nickel like poked me and was like,
Now I get that. Okay, now I get it.
I don't know why my wife still lets us have a John Elway poster in the bedroom, but there is one.
You have a John Elway poster in your bedroom?
Hell yeah, we do.
I've been arguing for years that I should be able to get a King Griffey Jr. poster in our bedroom. But
it's the same one.
Nope.
It's the same one I've had since I was 10.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's framed now because otherwise it would, who knows. But yeah, so we talked to Hank Bachmeier, mm-hmm. and that's a big deal just because it's like he's the most. You're like you said. I think you did. You were right. You pretty much put the nail on the head. Was like the most interesting guy on the roster because people see him, mm-hmm. and I asked them this question. I said people are always interested in the new guy. Mm-hmm. And the quarterback.
Yep.
And he's both.
Yep.
And he obviously, when you can start as a true freshman, especially here, because no one had ever started the season as a true freshman, and kind of set the bar high for yourself, you're going to get the attention. Mm-hmm. And so for us, we've always been fascinated by it.
Yeah, and on top of all that, it's the way that people have talked about him. What I mean by that is throughout fall camp, and even the first few games of the season, whenever we would ask people about Hank and to describe their starting quarterback, they'd always kind of give you this, oh, shucks, giggle, and then say that he was goofy or weird or silly or funny. And that's all we could really get from it. But why? I don't know, because he is.
Yes.
We finally got the
lament
chance,
of a reporter.
Right? We finally got the chance to kind of get Hank's end of it. And for me, as good as this interview was, by the way, Dave, I am more eager to get to the 4th and 5th interview with him because I think that he will be much more comfortable and relaxed. And he was still pretty good, don't get me wrong, but more of his natural character will come out.
Yeah.
It was kind of held back.
Yes.
Like after kind of asking him about that though, like your teammates call you weird, goofy, and funny, and he kind of had this little moment where he's like, well, I hope they said something nice about me.
Yeah.
And he kind of smirked, and then he went back into the very but we prepare and we focus and
we have fun. Fun is good. You like fun? Fun is nice. Yeah. No, I agree. That was pretty funny just because. But that's always the thing too. Yeah. Or even with Curtis Weaver before. Oh, he's this funny guy. He's hilarious. He's weird. Whoa, how so? He just is. Well, crap. That does not help my story whatsoever. And so
because he just is, period.
Because the first time we didn't get Curtis right away, mm-hmm. and it took a little bit of time to get him, and he seemed a little uncomfortable at first because he didn't want to say the wrong thing, and then now he's kind of a normal guy in the repertoire.
But I might have had the quote of the week, by the way, and I feel like it's kind of gone unnoticed.
No.
Ezra Cleveland.
Oh, he's talking about pancaking
the
a dude?
normally soft-spoken left tackle over at Boise State with a great dry sense of humor.
There's always one.
But it's hard to get it out of him. But, we were asking you about the art of pancaking somebody, because if you go back to that San Jose State game, Big 76 had a couple of them. And he basically, he kind of laughed, which you don't get too many laughs out of him, and he described it as thoroughly dominating a dude. And there was another play that happened in the game. It was actually Hank's 3rd and 15 that he ran for, and he lowered his shoulder and tried to take on a safety to pick up the first down. And we asked Ezra about that, and Ezra goes, "Well, I didn't really see it because I was burying my dude in the back."
Yeah, that was
like,
that was pretty sweet. That was
a great chest bump right now. It was. You don't get that out of Ezra too much. So I thought it was pretty awesome.
You always get one good line from him, though. I mean, there's always and
it is usually one line.
Yeah,
it's not a paragraph. It is one line.
I think there was the one where you asked him about the importance of protecting a quarterback's blind side, and how much responsibility you have on that and stuff like that. And he goes, "Well, it's bad if they come from the other side too," or something like that. So he's reliable. But yeah, I mean, it was, for us nerds and media nerds, and I think people that are fans, this was an interesting week of stories, or it added some freshness to the last month of the season, where sometimes it can get pretty stagnant in getting Hank, Chase, Jalen.
And here's the deal. When you can't talk to the quarterback, I mean, that's a pretty big position to miss out on in interviews, especially when you go from a guy like Brett Rippon to nothing, because not only would Brett Rippon speak with the media quite often, he was also very good. Like, he provided quotes, insightful, had some humor. I mean, he's kind of the whole package when talking with us. You could always lean on him to give you something good. And then you just don't get anything for the first couple months of the season. And I understand it. Hank's a true freshman. I'm not saying I don't get it. I understand it, but it's just like you go from a lot to nothing, and it's kind of hard to navigate a whole season without at least something. So it was great that we got Hank. But for me, one of the coolest takeaways from this week was the fact that these guys really do like each other. And I mean, I'm talking about the quarterbacks, whether it be Hank Bachmeier, Chase Cord, Jalen Henderson. These guys legitimately all really like each other. And I mean, come on. I know that we can have coach speak and stuff like that, but we're competitors here, Dave. You've competed at sports. You know that at the end of the day, when you're competing against somebody, you want their job. It is what it is. And if you didn't, there would be something wrong with you. So I'm not saying it's all bad. If you didn't, there'd be something wrong with you. You don't have a competitive desire to win a job. Why are you here?
Yeah.
But these guys, I don't, man, it's genuine. Actions speak louder than words to me. And if you look closely after some of these big plays, touchdowns, whatever it is, Chase Cord could be on the field throwing the touchdown, and you have Hank Bachmeier running on to give him a hug, or vice versa. And so those little actions between all these big plays and between all these decisions that have been made speak volumes to me that they really are connected in that locker room.
I wonder if you can just see that reflected in the fact that who's still here. You know what I mean? That Dave, a Cord didn't leave, or even like Jalen, if he's I want to start somewhere, I want to go to an FCS or something.
What happened last time this happened? What happened last time a true freshman was named the starting quarterback, another quarterback got healthy, there was a competition in the spring, and then that true freshman going into a sophomore year was named the starter. I know that was kind of a lot to follow right there, but what happened the last time we were in this scenario?
There was a lot of attrition.
There was a lot of
pretty
attrition.
Soon after.
A lot of quarterbacks transferred out, and here you don't see that. I mean, one guy that we still haven't talked to, and I think that it also says the writing's kind of on the wall here, was Riley Smith. Yeah. He's been in that quarterback room, and we've seen him gravitating towards with those tight ends. Last week, Dave, and this is kind of like a subtle thing here, but we got it from our interview with John Bates, but kind of chatting with him about the tight ends carving the pumpkins over at Kent Riddle's house.
Yeah.
I got a picture from John Bates with the tight ends and their carved pumpkins.
Yeah.
There was a certain someone on the very far left of that picture, and it was Riley Smith.
Matt Pistone and his pumpkin.
Well, that too. It was very simple design from Matt.
It was.
I'll show it to you afterwards. But Riley Smith was in that picture, and I'm like, the quarterbacks were at Coach Harson's house.
Yeah.
The tight ends were at Kent Riddle's house, and there's Riley Smith.
Yeah. I had a question in one of my mailbags recently where someone asked that, and I mean, I put it out there because since I haven't seen him thrown a pass in like a month. Like he's, the type of the weapon role and stuff like that. He can still throw, obviously, but he's basically a tight end now. He is a tight end now. And
over under on pass attempts in Riley Smith's career.
Here?
Yeah.
You can set it at
0.5, 1.5.
I was going to say 0.5. I would say that's where you set it. It should be, does he throw a pass, yes or no?
Yeah. I think that they're going to find a way one time. So that's why I'm going to go 1.5.
I haven't seen him on the field.
Well, I'm not talking about this year. I mean, in his Boise State career. I mean, we still got 3 more years to figure this out.
We'll see if he sticks at it. Like, to be honest, I mean, this isn't like trying to read tea leaves or anything like that. If he sticks around, then yeah, absolutely. I mean, they lose.
I think that other quarterbacks that have transferred haven't gone and played different positions. Like, I'm not saying he's given up as a quarterback, but it does feel different to me.
Michael Wilson's a wide receiver now at Missouri.
Really?
Yeah, he did go. Obviously, he was a quarterback for a little bit, but he's a wide receiver now.
He committed to Boise State, never played here.
Yes, exactly. But I mean, it's just interesting that quarterback, the dynamic that you alluded to, and how it changes when you have a true freshman starting is very unique. Jalen Henderson's graduating. That at the moment leaves them with 2. If Chase Cord decides, hey, I want to be a starter somewhere, yeah, you are in a big very unique, difficult situation. Because guess what? Do you know how many they have committed right now? None.
Yeah, not only geez, Dave, I don't know why, but I didn't even really think of it playing out like that. And my gut says that Chase doesn't transfer.
And that would lend itself
to... It's still worth just bringing up the scenario.
Yeah, but it's logical to... Maybe the coaches have gotten a very good indication that he won't. And that, as I've always said, it's a luxury for Boise State to have him around. But if that does happen, they're in a very unique situation.
Yeah.
And I think they're in a unique situation regardless. They're going to have to get at least 1, if not 2 more... But they don't have any committed right now. So how they're going to do it remains to be seen. I think this is an interesting. We talk about the dynamic of a true freshman. You talk about the relationships. Even in the bigger picture, what that means.
Yeah,
it's fascinating to me.
I just never really thought what happens if, because Jalen will be gone after this year. He's out of eligibility. If Chase transfers, they don't have anybody in the boat right now for the 2020 recruiting class at that position. Maybe you ask Riley Smith to come back to quarterback at that point.
The guys always mention Zach Matlock, and he was a guy who in high school had some FCS offers. But
I'm sorry, I have yet to bring him up, but even Hank said that Zach Matlock is like a big brother to him at the moment.
But I'm trying to think the last time a walk-on quarterback played here.
Man.
Was it Brian Harsin? I don't know.
That's a great question.
That actually threw a pass.
There have been some very durable quarterbacks that
they've been durable. I don't think Grody was a walk-on, so it's just, or even getting in at all. So anyway, that stuff always fascinates me. That's always I'm sure good off-season fodder, but as of right now, I think they're in a good situation. You look at how Bachmeier's played. We talked to him, kind of got an idea of what it's like as a true freshman starting quarterback here at this place. The strides he's made, Khalil Shakir today said, you played against him in high school, and he's like, the running and dropping his shoulder thing, he's like, that's new.
That was kind
of funny.
That was one of the things I was actually most eager to ask Khalil about, because they did have a previous history. They did actually play against each other, and you brought it up first, and it was just interesting to... I honestly thought that Khalil was going to say, oh yeah, he's been the same way. He has been the same way, because... I just don't know why you would all of a sudden develop that at the college level. Yeah. Unless you are truly trying to scrap and fight for everything that's out there. But usually if you can run and do stuff like that at the college level, guys are way faster than high school.
Right.
So you probably could have done that as a prepster.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, he didn't really have to do that.
And he had pretty good rushing numbers, but I bet it was just, from scrambling and whatever, but maybe not necessarily dropping a shoulder, trying to jump over the pile or anything like that.
It is pretty funny. I went back and looked at that 3rd and long that he took off on, and he lowered his shoulder and he picked up the first down. I will say this. He did kind of get stood up a little bit on that. He did. But I certainly admire the kid willing to go in there. Got to probably protect the throwing shoulder a little better than that.
Probably.
And I'm sure that those are conversations that are being had. And Hank joked around he used to be a pretty good baseball player. maybe he should lean on his experience.
Learn some of those
sliding.
Tools, that what he said.
Bring some of those over to the football field. You know, one guy that I'm clearly not a coach, but I just watched him operate in the London game this last weekend. Deshaun Watson, clearly an unbelievable talent. But the way that he slides, like I think that's worth studying. He goes down, not necessarily at the last minute, but his slides, if you watch him, they're always very smooth. Like, he just has a way of kind of gliding across the turf. He never sticks, never does anything like that. But he doesn't, if you slide too early, you're going to lose yards because it's the moment you give yourself up.
Yeah.
And he's very good at making sure that he gets to those points where he's not leaving any yards out there, but he's still getting down and avoiding contact. And I'm talking about Deshaun Watson. Like I said, I'm not a football coach. I'm the farthest thing from, except for my dynasty mode in NCAA 14. Outside of that, I don't know. I think that there's something that could probably be learned from the way Deshaun Watson goes about that.
There was, Harsin kind of said to us in passing, like, oh yeah, I've had talked to him multiple times about sliding, and Hank, implied that it has been a common topic with them, and as we've said since day one. They're going to figure something out. They're going to, or they're going to have to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, again, talk about having a luxury. Hank goes out. Next play, Chase Cord scores a rushing touchdown, untouched.
Yep.
So, I don't know.
Worked out pretty good.
It worked out pretty well. Being able to adapt and things like that, they've been able to do it. And so, that was it in action. And then obviously he came back, but. I just thought it was pretty funny. He gets in one first snap, boom, touchdown. Not bad.
Yeah.
Very similar. In 2010 in San Jose State, I think the same end zone, the same spot. Mike Coughlin came in and ran for a touchdown for Kellen.
That was pre-me.
That's from Dave's History Corner, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed up in Lewiston, covering the other college football team, Division I college football team in the state of Idaho, the Vandals.
Oh, yeah.
At that point in time.
Yeah.
But, I think that, as mature and funny, and you can see why his leadership quality is infectious when I'm talking about Hank Bachmeier. He talks about just trying to have as much fun as he possibly can because he always thinks about, when he's playing
Pop Warner.
Pop Warner. And, it was just about having fun, and you can see that's definitely the way that he approaches the game. And then you have Chase Cord, Chase really does seem like a genuine leader. And whenever you ask anybody about Chase Cord in terms of the coaches, they also have like a kind of a genuine reaction right off the top when they're just kind of like, oh, Chase, he does everything right.
Yeah.
Chase, I love him. Chase, great leader. Like, it's always something about his character that shines through that these guys have to acknowledge before you kind of get into the X's and O's, the touchdowns, the interceptions, whatever else it might be.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just, I don't know. I'm very interested by all this stuff.
And then Jalen Henderson. If I had a company, I'd make him my CEO. The kid is sharp.
Yeah.
Top notch.
Oh yeah. He said business major, right?
He is a business. That's what I said. He's a business major.
Yeah.
He's sharp.
Yeah.
I really like Jalen Henderson. Great number 3 quarterback. What a luxury to have a safety to your safety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he played well when he came in against Hawaii. That was obviously his most extensive action he's really ever had, and did a nice job of that. And he was the only quarterback we talked to in the spring, and there was probably a good reason for that. Just how he is. So.
I tell you, Dave, it's the off season and the Idaho Mets softball text thread is just on fire right now.
It's blowing up.
We're not even playing games right now, guys.
We're
sorry.
There had been that sort of viral thread, around Halloween, where the team dressed up that this guy was playing, where they all dressed up as WWE wrestlers.
I'm all for it.
And I think last game
like an April Fool's game or something
season usually starts in April. That or the last one of the season, because it's at least probably going to be close to October. That makes sense.
I'm all for it.
I was going to ask you, what is your opinion on Hank Bachmeier's mustache?
It looks like a true freshman growing a mustache.
It's kind of dirty. It kind of is.
It is.
I saw it. I was like, you do Movember? And he was like, maybe. And I was like,
kind of. Oh, what about quarterback crunch?
Oh yeah. I asked him because his Twitter bio says milkshake connoisseur. And a couple of people have kind of mentioned it, and I was like, am I missing something here? And I asked him, I said, what's your favorite flavor? And he sat there for a minute, and he's like, well, Baskin Robbins has one that's quarterback crunch. And it was kind of like, oh, of course. Of course.
I wonder if it's even good, or if he just has to pick it because of the name. The quarterback crunch, man, does that suit Hank Bachmeier?
You're like, yeah, it has little bits of bacon in it, and you're like, this one's terrible. Because quarterback crunch, I gotta go for that one.
Gotta go for it.
There's pineapple. And
the other thing about him too, he is the first guy in a very, very long time that has worn his full practice jersey, pads, and everything to an interview.
That was. Again, true freshman thing. Probably pulled him off the practice field and gave him a 20-minute session on what to say and what not to say, and
mostly excuse you, 19 minutes on what not to say, 1 minute on what to say.
Yes. Man,
he did a pretty good job navigating it though, and like I said, though, I'm really eager to get to interviews 4 and 5 with him, and then from there on out, I think he's going to be a really enjoyable interview where he provides some character, some comedy, makes us laugh, and I mean, you want these guys to be humans. I mean, you want viewers and fans to be relatable for those guys to be relatable to fans, and I think that he's going to be spot on eventually. When it comes to
the quarterback can speak to everything. He can talk about the O-line, talk about the receivers, talk about the running backs,
talk about everything. He can talk about the way, defense, not getting off the field or getting off the field. I mean, like, the quarterback can talk about, he's basically a coach. You can talk about anything.
Yeah, and kind of, after San Jose State, when it's a true freshman quarterback and a true freshman running back, and no one can really talk about the success of the run game or anything like that, it was a bit of a challenge.
Yep.
But now that the reins are off a little bit, it makes it a little interesting.
Yep. Now it's on to George Holani, who's the other true freshman that is just exceeding expectations, and I think that the coaching staff has sky-high expectations for George Holani. And last week, he was great. He filled in for Robert Mahone. He rushed for a career-high 126 yards, and he ran 28 times for 4 touchdowns, the first freshman in program history with 4 touchdowns in a game since 1977.
Jeez.
I wonder if George's parents were even born then.
Who was in 77? Was it Minner? Who was in 77?
That would have been right around that era.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe Minter.
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know either. Look that up in the game notes.
Yeah. But anyway, his ascent has been really interesting because, again, I don't want to say you get frustrated, but there's always a time in August or July mostly, which true freshmen are going to play. It's like, these guys haven't even practiced. Most of them. Like, how the hell would we know? Brian Harsin in media days was all about Hank Bachmeier and George Holani, and guess what? Those two have played quite a bit. Yep. And so that was like, well, okay, there you go. But there's always, like I said, it's always the new thing, whatever's new. That's the one that people love. Sometimes guys take time to develop. So because of that, those two have been really good. And everyone's like, well, what about Casey Klein? He was a highly touted recruit too. Maybe he's one of those guys that takes a little bit of time. It just happens. You know what I mean? Doug Martin redshirted.
Casey's dealt with some injuries too.
Yeah, he's had some injuries. Right, exactly. Doug Martin redshirted. There's guys like that. But it's just funny. It's funny. Like,
I'll go back to this. Like, you would always rather have a 22-year-old redshirt junior than an 18-year-old true freshman. I mean, even in George Holani's case, like, if he could have redshirted him, that probably would have been what Boise State's would have preferred, because you could have had him at 22, meaning he's been on campus for almost 5 years. Versus, I mean, that is the trade-off. You're trading off that back year for the younger front year. Yep. And you'd probably like to do that with everybody. And if you can, you do. You will. You are. I mean, then there's some that you just have to play early.
It's worked out great for Holani because he obviously played a good amount against Florida State. Partially, again, when you have that opportunity, he's taking it because. Yep. He also did fumble Florida State, but after Van Buren lost one, and then there's been 2 games now where Mahone got hurt early in a game, and Holani finished it off and had great games. Yeah, and then he obviously gets the start and he does a hell of a job with that opportunity. So sometimes it's that too, that the fact that if the coaches had their druthers, they probably would have been riding Mahone most of the way. You know what I mean? And
I think we're definitely to the point though where like rule out, saying this kid can only take so much because he's a true freshman. George Holani he can offer the offense as much as anybody. He can be a 28 carry a game type guy because we saw it this last weekend. He handled it, scored 4 touchdowns, was super productive. As much as we've mentioned George's success, I still don't know if like it's hit home like just how good he's been. And kind of looking a few things up today, and I'll have some more in the Bronco Roundup Game Day show this Saturday from 7 to 8 live on the Blue on Channel 7. Dave, at the moment, no other Boise State player has touched the ball more than George Holani, picked up more yards from scrimmage, or scored more total touchdowns.
Yeah.
He leads the entire team in all of that.
Yeah. And
he's a true freshman. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's one of just a couple of true freshmen in the entire country that's leading his team in those respective categories.
That recruiting class was really well touted, and they haven't played a ton of guys from it back to 16 when they played 10, right? I wondered if maybe that was going to be the case this year. It hasn't been. They've only played 4 in terms of guys that won't be redshirting for sure. And that's been, I guess, slightly surprising. So that class was very solid, but not that it was top heavy, but there were some guys at the very top that kind of really propelled the class in terms of its rankings and stuff like that. And 2 of the 3 or 4 most highly touted, however you want to look at those numbers, are those 2 that are contributing right away and playing in big ways.
Yeah.
And we talk about some of the guys about Harsin just flat out said, and he's excited about the future with George Holani. And obviously, you can see with Bachmeier where the ceiling is, and it's very high. And so it's just kind of as I'm sure as frustrating sometimes offensively as this team can be, you still just have to a little bit remember that there's some true freshmen out there, even though the line's veterans.
It's hard to forget, though. I mean, it's easy to forget at times that you do have 2 true freshmen playing very prominent roles. The 2 guys that touch the ball more than anybody on offense, with the exception of your center, if that even counts, are the quarterback and the running back. And those 2 guys have been on campus for less than a year. Hank got here back in January. He was a mid-year enrollee to where George got here during the summer. George Holani's been here for 4.5 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's leading the team in all those categories.
Yep.
I mean, he's got 4 100 total yard performances this season. That's twice as many as Alexander Madison, Jeremy McNichols, and Jay Ajayi had combined their freshman seasons.
Right.
He's good. And
he's really good.
When we were talking with Khalil Shakir today, another guy that had tremendous success as a freshman, good success as a true freshman, he's like, man, imagine 2 years from now when he's bigger and stronger and faster.
Yeah.
And George Holani is just... He's going to be a treat to watch, Bronco Nation.
He said on the sideline that he was saying...
League him.
Yeah, he can go to the league next year.
Yep.
That was funny.
It was definitely tongue-in-cheek.
Right.
But, it's just
saying
a joke.
That he's good enough,
but
right?
he's an amazing talent.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just always funny just to see how it pans out with these youngsters. And it's kind of like, well, they were really highly touted for a reason, and they've done it right away. And I think that adds an excitement to a fan base, to a team, to a coaching staff, to everything, to have those guys be that way. Now, sometimes it's maintaining it. There's been guys who play as true freshmen who you sit there and you project, and you're like, whoa. And maybe don't get that far. And so, but yes, for the here and now, obviously really good.
The one reason why I feel comfortable with projecting with George, and I'm not gonna lie, Harsin kind of shot me down in my quest to see if he would go there today in our last interview session with him prior to the game. Just looking at George now, do you ever envision what he might become? And they even tried to throw you're big on player development, and he just said you can't get too far ahead. And he gave us an example as there's some guys that get in on Sunday and they're already talking about Saturday, to where all George does is talk about today. He's just so focused on getting better today, stacking those types of days up on upon each other, and then he gets to Saturday and turns it loose.
Yeah.
But I just think that he's got a really, really bright future ahead for him. And as long as we're talking about running backs, there was another one that finally broke through. And we talked about this for a little bit on the show last week. But Andrew Van Buren finally has a breakout performance. 9 carries, a career-high 85 yards. He scored a touchdown. And his reaction after finally getting into the end zone, he was, I mean, maybe just short of going nuts.
Yeah.
You could just tell, like, he has been waiting for that moment.
It was cathartic.
It was.
You know?
It absolutely was.
Yeah.
You can't help but be happy for a kid like that.
And that's what Harsin said after the game. He was like, that's the game they wanted from him. And he said, I think that's the game he needed, which, you know, that gives them 3 really good running backs. Yeah. And the way he ran, and I asked him that this week, that it did seem like he ran different. He just looked different. I don't know what it was. You know, was it the fact that he actually had some holes to run through? Was it the fact that San Jose State wasn't the best run defense? I don't know what it was. Was it the fact that coming off the bye and everything like that? But he ran with some enthusiasm, if you will, and he was really good. And he just looked different to me. And so I think that's a positive sign. If we want to talk about, I asked Harsin this week, again, you talk about questions sometimes that don't go where you think. Yeah. I kind of asked about, like, where is the team better than when you started, but where is the team, you know, still need some room to grow? And you can't sometimes see it with individual players, but I guess with a guy like that, you can kind of see, like, well, that guy's maybe taking a step forward here in November.
Which is encouraging to see.
It would be, especially who knows how long Mahone's out, or, you know, Harsin says he should be back, but if he gets dinged up, or even, you know, hell, even if Holani gets dinged up, you got 3 really good running backs in there.
Yep. So very encouraging to see Andrew Van Buren make a big step forward, and it just felt like it was a matter of time, and he finally had his breakout performance this season. He was solid at times last season, but he finally happened for him this season down in San Jose.
Long run at Wyoming.
He did.
Last year.
He was the guy that kind of came in and finished off the Cowboys last year in Laramie. And we'll see. If Robert Mahone is still limited, then I'm guessing you will see a good amount of Andrew Van Buren in one way or the other. And, you know, kind of one thing that we mentioned last week on the show is that bigger running backs, they kind of need a few carries to maybe find a rhythm.
I think that's what he said
and
too.
Andrew said, like he you know, it's so funny because these guys have to be so careful what they say, because I think they're scared of saying the wrong thing. But sometimes it is the right thing. Like I get it. Like he's a running back, and he said that, like I need some carries, and then after that he also quickly followed it up with, but no matter how many carries I get, I need to make the most of them. And Andrew, man, I totally get that. But I also understand the fact that sometimes you do need a few carries to get in a rhythm, and I think you saw Andrew Van Buren got stronger, it seemed, as he did stack a few carries on top of each other.
Well, case in point, how did Boise State run the ball in November last year with their running back? Dude got better as the game went on and the season went on. You know, I mean, it does happen. But it was afterward, Van Buren took out the microphone and he was like, they ain't give me the damn ball. And we're like, whoa, what? No, I'm kidding. No, he didn't.
That never happened. Going over to the other side of the ball as we hit the home stretch of this edition of Jay and Dave Sports Bar. It was an interesting night on defense for the Boise State football team.
Interesting. Yeah. It's a good way to put it.
Honestly, it's hard to assess because
for a bit there.
Dave, I really think that we need to make a point of crediting San Jose State.
Yeah, I agree.
I wish that they could have played that game without any colors or names on their uniforms, because I think that people discredit that performance because it's San Jose State. Brian Harsin said this week that San Jose State was 100 times better than he has ever seen them.
Yeah, you know what's funny? He said it Saturday night after his press conference. After his press conference, he was walking out, and I in passing kind of mentioned to him, it was just kind of it was interesting to me the difference in excitement levels between a comeback win at Florida State and a comeback win at San Jose State from people. They're very different, but it was a comeback win nonetheless. But it was just funny to me, and I mentioned that to him, and he just kind of looks at me and he goes, that team's 100 times better than they used to be, or something like that. And so he said it again this week.
And then he followed it up at the press conference, reiterating it. And then he also mentioned that he's like, I don't say that about just anybody. Like, they were 100 times better than when we've previously played them. And I would agree. There were moments when Boise State knew what San Jose State was about to do on offense, and because of Josh Love's pinpoint accuracy, they had a tough time stopping him.
if they win 2 more games, right?
Yeah, they're going bowling.
They're going bowling. Would Brent Brennan be your coach of the year?
Brent Brennan might be my coach of the year, and Josh Love is pushing to be the offensive player of the year.
I think at worst he should be the
first-team quarterback.
The first-team quarterback.
And that's
him
because
and Bachmeier have a comparable like QBR and stuff like that. But for how much they pass and his TD to INT ratio,
yes,
I'd lean to him.
Josh Love has a lot on his shoulders in that offense.
Yeah,
a lot.
Because they can't run worth crap.
Yeah, exactly.
They are comically bad at running the ball. Like during the beginning of that game, I was like, oh my God, if this team runs for more than 50 yards, that's bad. And they did. They ran for like 59 or something like that. But that was like their second best performance since October, running the ball.
No, they threw for 438.
Yeah.
But that's because they're not good at
And after the first 2 drives, they did not run the ball very well whatsoever. And you could see it. It was like, I don't know how you can be that bad at running the ball. And that goes to show just how...
On the flip side of this, I can tell you why I'd be so eager to throw the ball, because they have, I mean, like, Dave, like, their top 3 receivers, like, I'm not going to compare them to Boise State, because Boise State 1 through 5 is very good at wide receiver. But outside of that, like, other teams you're going to see in the conference, Colorado State's got a little bit of depth at wide receiver. But 1 through 3, they got some guys that can roll at San Jose State.
I think in terms of a 1 through 3,
very dangerous.
I'd put them 3rd.
Yeah.
Behind Boise State and Hawaii.
Yeah, I'd say so.
CSU, I mean, like, Warren Jackson's awesome.
Yeah,
like, CSU's number 1 is fantastic.
Yeah, and they have a true freshman that's doing some big things for him too. But 1 through 3, I think that 3 might be a good place to put San Jose State.
Yeah.
So given that, like, I just feel like it's important to acknowledge that, because if we don't do the performance justice. Like, we're not doing our jobs if we don't acknowledge, like, San Jose State was a much improved team. Given that, Boise State gave up 42 points, and for a lot of that game, man, they seemed like they were trying to play catch up on defense, just because of the way San Jose State was attacking.
They put them on their heels.
They did.
Boise State didn't take the lead until toward the end of the 3rd quarter, and they didn't go ahead for good until the 4th quarter, because San Jose State went up 14-0. If they went in a zone, he was hitting it right in between it. They were throwing some routes where if it was man to man, he was putting it right where no one could get it. And Boise State, not really till the end of the game, got much pressure on them. So again, credit to them. And I think for Boise State, that was one of the least impressive defensive performances I've seen from them in a bit. But also, again, you do have to credit San Jose State. But I thought eventually I was like, they're gonna figure this out, right? And then it was like, maybe not. But then the 4th quarter they kind of did. But better late than never. Yep.
And there were a couple dropped INTs. Jordan Apple,
Riley Wimpy.
He always got that ball was just like hanging up there.
He said his shoulder pads restricted his movement to reach for a ball. I think like that, and that's I kind of thought that's kind of how the year's gone for them trying to get the turnovers. They've been so close, but
again, like I have it. Like they kept talking about like we've been close and we dropped a couple and. Prior to last week, like there haven't been a ton.
Yeah, I think we mentioned
and then last week in San Jose State, there were legitimately a couple where it's like, man, so close.
If Wickersham had dropped that one, because Love, I don't know if Love saw him or not, but just hit him like boom right in the hands. If he dropped that one, then we would have had a case.
Yeah, but Wickersham got it, sealed the deal. Boise State wins by 10. They're now 7-1 on the season. They were ranked number 22 in the very first college football playoff rankings of the season. Those were revealed earlier this week on Tuesday evening, and right now the Broncos are number 3 in the pecking order of the group of 5 teams, because you have both Cincinnati and Memphis slotted right ahead of them. Cincinnati at 20, Memphis at 21, and then Boise State at 22, which I think that's a good way to go about this. What the playoff committee is saying is that these teams are jockeying for position with one another. They're not even getting cute and trying to sandwich teams in between them, because it really doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
And I've seen some people being like, okay, well, if X happens, then Y, which would lead to Z, things like that. And like, even though we are getting toward the home stretch.
We're about 2 weeks from really being able to break that down.
That's more accurate, because it's a little bit of a fool's errand right now, partially because you're dealing with a committee here. If you're looking at like, there's a computer ranking thing I can use. Yeah, you can adequately guess. You have no idea what they're going to do. Our buddy Murph was talking about, and he's pretty much right, that like the committee will say that they have a certain criteria, but the criteria is whatever they think.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
And then they justify it.
And then they justify it, whatever, based on whatever, exactly, whatever they present. So, yeah, so those two teams ahead of them, wasn't surprised. Mm-mm. No one should be.
Nope.
But also, is there an opportunity for them to jump them? Even if those teams win, maybe. Mm-hmm. If Cincinnati has another one where they need a last-second field goal to beat a team that's not going to reach a bowl game.
Hey, I'm not saying it's the reason why Brian Harsin did this. And the reason he gave us after the game was that, they've been aggressive all night and they wanted to finish the game by being aggressive.
Yeah.
But if Boise State gets out of San Jose State with a 3-point win versus a double-digit 10-point win, it just looks very different.
It looks a little better.
And so they were able to tack on a touchdown kind of at the end of the game, and it just gave them a little more breathing room.
We're in the Fly episode of Breaking Bad right now. But and asked him about that after the game, and it was interesting. And it was interesting to kind of see the division in not necessarily this fan base, but other fan bases. Some were like, "Oh, the word that's really come up recently that sucks is like class." Like, oh, show some class. Mm-hmm. There are some fans who are like, hell yeah, they went for it. Okay. And there are some who are just like, some using logic, I get it, saying they put themselves at a little more risk doing that than if they just knelt it, which is true. But then, of course, they're like fans from other teams who are just like, oh, it's classless. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like,
I think that for Boise State, it's worth the gamble because, again, a 10-point victory on the road, it just does look different than a 3-point victory on the road. 3 points, you're like, wow, Boise State barely got by. 10 points, you're like, shootout, but Boise State won. Mm-hmm. Like, it just, even just looking at the score, it changes things, just perception just a little bit. But forget class, man. Like, if you're San Jose State, you are wanting Boise State to score because the only way this game gets extended
is if you have the ball in your hands.
Is if you have the ball in your hands. If Boise State kneels on it, the game is legitimately over.
Yeah, Super Bowl 32, Denver getting in close. They pretty much let Terrell Davis walk in because the Packers won the ball.
And that's kind of what San Jose State did. Like, they're like, oh, Boise State's going to run it. Like, they kind of there wasn't a huge tackling effort on that play by any means.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That was the second Super Bowl 32 reference today. Because Harsin mentioned Elway because he was going in hard with Bachmeier.
Okay, well, I think that actually means that we're getting close to the end of the show then because we got the second one in.
How dare you?
Okay, perfect. All right.
We're gonna get multiple Denver Broncos references, Minnesota references, the references to my alma mater. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go in that hallway and get Joey Prechtel and Joe Parrish, and we're gonna talk about the Buffs. Mm-hmm. You're just like, oh,
Joe Parrish.
Oh, you're like, actually no.
Just kidding. It's just an email that was sent that was joking.
No, it's Joe. It's Joe Parrish.
Yeah. He does the double R. Don't get that.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. And there's an accent in it somehow too. Yeah. But anyway, the way the rankings came out, not surprised. Mm-hmm. It's it is what it is. I don't think anyone is probably overly upset or overly surprised at any of it.
Yeah. I don't think so either. I'm going to try to help you reach for maybe another acknowledgement of Super Bowl 32, Colorado, whatever it may be. And I'm going to do that by actually shifting to maybe a little bit of hoops talk to wrap up the show. I'll close in just by saying Boise State back on the blue, 8:15, probably closer to 8:30 against Wyoming this Saturday. Looking forward to that game. Boise State nearly a 2-touchdown favorite.
We got cats up in the box with us, and
no cats allowed.
They are at the
only dogs.
They are at MetLife Stadium with the Giants. Sorry,
Michael Cass making his homecoming. Travel safe, buddy.
Yeah.
But for basketball season, it is underway. Boise State played an exhibition last week. They played for real earlier this week, and they hung 126 points on the board, a school record. And no, the level of competition has not been good so far for Boise State. But as we talked about with Leon Rice today, the Broncos have played a lot of teams like this before. They've played a lot of exhibitions before. Never before have they scored 126 points before. Yep. So it speaks to the talent of this team and I believe the confidence that they're opening up the season with.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of how he put it was they're building confidence that's kind of what they need after last season, frankly, after having a school record for the amount of losses. So that's what they need, and you kind of need it when you're going to go play against someone like Oregon. Like I mentioned to Leon, when they went to play Kentucky, the game before that was Carroll. Not many schools probably Carroll College, and then they play Kentucky in Lexington. So I think with them, them having just beaten Pacific Globe Financial, right? That was
basically Pac Life,
Global Life Financial, and now going
Life Pacific,
and then going to go play Oregon.
Big step up.
Yeah, a little bit.
I really do feel like this team's ready for this stuff. I'm not predicting they're going on the road and winning, but last year, even in the later part of the season, even when they were in games, you just really wondered about the confidence of this team and their ability to finish. This year, man, I really do feel like they're kind of one of those more veteran teams that even though they got some injuries, they're kind of lacking numbers a little bit. I really do think that they are going to go in there and be prepared to try and upset the Ducks. And Oregon's a top 25 team. This would be a huge road win for Boise State if they can go in there and pull this thing off. Is Peyton Pritchard really still in college?
Yeah.
That is unbelievable to me. John Brockman was at UW for 74 years. And apparently Peyton Pritchard's going on year 75 at Oregon.
Can you imagine what the rest of the Mountain West was like with Drimmick?
Yeah. Drimmick and Marks. Are these guys still there?
Well, Drimmick at least played in parts of 5 seasons. Good point. That guy probably, I'm sure, and he was always a pain. He was always a pain to the other teams anyways. But it's interesting too because it's early enough in the season where you just don't know what you're going to get. And so,
one thing I will say again, Boise State, they are in an offensive flow. I really, it would be hard to score 126 on air. I mean, again, I'm not predicting they're going to go and upset Oregon, but I do think that this team will be ready. I don't think that the game's going to start on an 18-2 run. I think that Boise State will be ready.
You mean on air? That's the American Insurance of Richmond. I don't know.
Oh, no.
Just kidding.
I feel like we're trying to name San Jose State Stadium right now, which was RPFCQING Stadium.
You know what's funny about that? When I was walking the parking lot on Monday, I saw Chad, and Chad's like, how was F? No, wait. U, it has all those letters in it, and when I was trying to look it up on my little Maps app, it took the third time. Then I was like, "Oh, that's what it is."
I really hope I didn't spell out anything funny. By the way, I don't think I did. I did use it against me. It is what it is.
It's the hidden message when you enter it into the referral box.
Yeah.
Jay and I will come to your house.
I always forget to say it. Yeah, we will come to your house if you give us a bad review. But go to iTunes, give us a review.
Yeah, give us a good review. Give us your address.
If it's a bad review,
and we'll send you our Venmo, and you send us money. But basketball, they're an interesting team to me. I asked about it a little bit today, and Leon talked about it. That he's looking down the bench, and he saw a bunch of guys in polos, whether it's injuries or guys that are
waiting to get eligibility,
possibly getting eligibility, or knowing that they will once the semester turns. They're in a spot right now where they don't have a ton of depth.
No.
And so
7 scholarship players at the moment. That's it.
Yeah, because Max,
I'd say he really is a guy that could have given a scholarship to. So that is a technicality, but 7. Call it 7.5.
So you basically really only using 8 guys total. So I mean that's interesting to me because Abercrombie got hurt, and so
and Fitch is still in the lineup. He'll be okay.
Yeah. God. Oh, that got me for a second. I was like, is that a nickname for somebody? Because they call George Big Smooth, and I was like, is someone called Fitch? No, that was.
It's Abercrombie's best friend.
Yeah.
They actually got shirts made. They say Abercrombie and Fitch on them. It's hilarious.
Actually, it's weird.
Open up a story.
Even when you walk near them, you just smell them, and you're like, a little heavy on the old cologne there, kid. But yeah, I think they're an interesting team.
Yeah.
They're,
I think
there's no way they can be worse, and I think they will be better. And there's a potential for the conference to be multiple bid league. I don't know.
Yeah.
If some of these teams,
if Boise State's a middle of the road, a slightly upper echelon team in the Mountain West, it's going to be a good year for the Mountain West because I think Boise State has the pieces to really scare some teams and really compete. It's too bad that the road trip to New Mexico is before the New Year. It's before they get a Abu Hijab back. And it's before they get Riley Abercrombie back there. But, Abu is still waiting to get eligible, and then that is definitely coming, but he just has to wait till the new year.
And then they're still sitting on ACOT.
And still sitting on ACOT, and Riley still will be injured at that point in time. So they will definitely be thin in arguably the toughest road game of the conference schedule, and that's too bad. But I still think that this team's going to contend. They're going to compete. I think that Justinian Jessup's going to have a great year. I think that Alex Hobbs is in line to have a great year. And I think that, Derek Alston he's ready to make a big jump.
Yeah.
Maybe a really, really big jump.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm gonna hold off on that because I just want to wait. Like, he's developed so freaking much, but he's ready to make a big jump.
When I first saw him, I was like, there's a 0% chance that guy ends up ever playing.
Yep.
You look at, I mean, like, I've never seen someone so skinny. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, that was back when Dante Dion was here playing football.
That's one of my favorite things.
And Dante was 5'9", $155, and when he first got here, he was more like $140. And Derek Alston, who's 6'9", weighed less than Dante Dion.
Yeah, he's a foot taller.
He's a foot taller, weighed less, and he's really been able to mature and develop and really dedicate himself to getting in the weight room and becoming different.
I think, and again, I know Leon talks a lot about being a program that wants to develop guys.
Yeah.
They've dipped in the transfer market just because that's kind of the world they live in now. But there has been some pretty good examples of guys that have developed, and that would be case 1A.
Yeah.
If he's able to make that jump that some people think, and it looks like he's on the path to doing.
It'd be huge.
And I was going to say real quick, Abu did play at Oregon.
Yeah.
Right? They're playing at Oregon. And Leon was talking about today, watching some old film of theirs and saying how much he's literally said, he goes, oh man, this is exactly what we need on our team. So who knows? When that guy comes around and he's able to play, how much of a difference does that make? You're going to have to wait for it, but
I still think Abu's going to be like a 10-7 guy, but I think that's like they don't need a 19 point per game. If you get it, great, but they need a guy that can come in and really just be a great piece.
Yeah. And if you listen to the former iteration of this podcast, when it was me and Leon, he did say multiple times when I asked him about Abu, and he just kept talking about just like he hadn't been around someone who quite has the same like intensity or like leadership skills and stuff like that. Some of those things that
you go to practice, you'll see that. By the way.
Some of those things in basketball that you can't always measure. That even if he doesn't stuff the stat sheet, that might be of vital importance.
You go
to
to practice and they have fun, and Abu is usually at the center of like their huddle whenever there is more energy. He brings it, and I will say this, like just like sheer noise at practice, it's big for them, and so it just provides energy. It really does. But yeah, as we wrap this thing up, what do you got coming up this week on at the Athletic, Dave?
I have my live Q&A at noon on Friday. So if you subscribe, you can come on there and just BS. We can talk about whatever. It can be random. It can be very specific about football. I always enjoy doing those. And then what else was this week? This week wrote about the turnover throne, where that is now. It's in a stairwell at the football facility. We have just kind of did something about how they do with turnovers, how they celebrate them. It's a different way now. Wrote about Hank Bachmeier this week, and then wrote about
you got a lot of stuff over there.
The possibility of alcohol being in the stadium perhaps sooner than later.
Dr. Marlene Trump is fascinating. I've really enjoyed the chance to sit down and chat with her a little bit. She's great. And we had a few things on the pregame show with her last week. This week we'll talk about her running out of the tunnel onto the blue and through the smoke. And she's a character. She's very supportive of athletics and the football program, and we've definitely learned that. But we got the Bronco Roundup Game Day Show live on the Blue from 7 to 8 o'clock on Saturday. Go listen to Hank Bachmeier's interview online right now. You can check that out. And in the meantime, I believe that's going to do it for the show.
Love it. We will have a very fun game on Saturday. It might not be that high scoring. I don't know, but I think we'll have plenty to talk about.
I think they would 8-1.
I think they win it. Yeah. And then, we didn't spend a ton of time previewing it, so we're going to have a lot to talk about next week to recap it, and it'll be fun.
Look forward to it. We'll do it for this edition of Jay and Dave's podcast. Excuse me. That too, though.
The podcast edition of Jay and Dave's Sports Bar.
Boom. You hit it. We're going out on that. Serving the Idaho sports community.